friends, Damron here. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the 5 best supplements I give my patients for adrenal fatigue. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to be notified anytime I post new videos related to women's health, hormones, or holistic health. First, let's talk about what is adrenal fatigue. This is not a widely accepted diagnosis, and I want to make sure that you realize that. I don't really care what you call it. I've said this in multiple other videos before. The mechanisms of what's happening are definitely real. So what happens with adrenal fatigue is it happens to be a part of our cortisol or our stress response. When your brain is detecting dangers all around your environment, like toxic relationships, lack of boundaries, being late all the time, your plate's overwhelmed, feeling like you have too much going on, you feel like you're a perfectionist, people pleaser, type A, maybe you're a caretaker, you're over exercising, under eating. There's all kinds of different stressors in our body. And when your brain detects too many stressors at once, it's going to ask your adrenal glands to produce cortisol to help with that stress response. Over time, your cortisol gets really high and can create a lot of symptoms related to that. And then if it continues to go on for a lot more time, like months or years, your body has a hard time keeping up with the demands of stress, and your cortisol can actually go low. I'm going to give you some different signs and symptoms of this in just 1 second. So I want to remind you that adrenal fatigue has to do with the stress response and your cortisol. Cortisol can either, again, over an acute amount of time get high, like way too high, and over past that time get way too low. So different signs and symptoms of this are going to be things like feeling fatigued. And some people might feel fatigued in the morning. They might feel like they just need a huge cup of coffee to get going and they feel so groggy. Other people may notice that they're okay and then have like a big afternoon energy crash. Some people notice like sleep issues, so maybe trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. Those are huge ones. Maybe you might notice lower immune function, musculoskeletal pains like aches and pains and joint pain. Maybe you notice an increase in period symptoms like PMS or hormonal imbalances. Maybe your thyroid starts to get off a little bit. Maybe you start to feel just really overwhelmed, like your resilience to stress is a whole lot less. Maybe you start to notice your mood changes, like you feel really snappy and irritable and anxious, or even low mood like depression, low motivation, or apathetic. These kind of systemic changes are all part of symptoms related to either high or low cortisol. I want to preface this video with saying that you really do want to work with somebody who knows what they're talking about with adrenal fatigue, because there's a lot of different things at play, as you can see. And sometimes, again, you might have high cortisol, you might have low cortisol, and we really want to get the right herbs and vitamins and supplements to support your body. Also, I've said this before in my own story with adrenal fatigue, and when I work with patients with adrenal fatigue, you really have to make sure that you're getting to the root of this. Supplements are great and can help support your body and your stress response, but unless you're truly getting to the root of why this is happening in the first place, overwhelm, people-pleasing, perfectionism, toxic relationships, the way that you're perceiving your life, under-eating, over-exercising, lack of sleep, all of these things, we have to figure out how to get you out of needing your body to create so many stress hormones in the first place. So treating adrenal fatigue is definitely a huge multifaceted approach, and I just want to remind you of that because so many people come to me asking for what's the magic supplement regimen for adrenal fatigue, and they take it for a couple of weeks and they're like, I'm still not feeling better. It's because the stressor, the root of this is still not better, right? We're still kind of burning the candle on both ends, and we are giving supplements that can be helpful, but we're not actually getting to the root of what's causing it in the first place. So without further ado, let me give you the 5 biggest supplements that I give my patients with adrenal fatigue. The first supplement that I love to use for people with adrenal fatigue is vitamin C. Vitamin C is super important for your adrenal glands because a lot of your vitamin C is stored there, and it's also needed to produce things like norepinephrine and cortisol. So the more stress your body's under, the more vitamin C your body actually needs. Vitamin C is also anti-inflammatory. It helps with wound healing, does a million other things in our body. So it's a really, really great supplement to just make sure that you're getting adequate amounts of. With that said, I am not the biggest fan of using vitamin C like ascorbic acid supplements. Ascorbic acid is just one part of vitamin C, so I'm a big fan of using whole food vitamin C, getting it through your foods. If you need to get it through like a powder, you're struggling to eat your citrus or berries or spinach or collagen peptides are great sources of vitamin C, and you want to supplement with it, get like an acerola cherry powder. That's a really great form of vitamin C. Also, Jigsaw Health makes a really great adrenal cocktail powder, which is whole food vitamin C, sodium, and potassium. Sodium and potassium are also extremely helpful minerals for the stress response, adrenal fatigue, but also just a myriad of other functions in our body as well. So again, on Wellevate, which I'll leave that in the show notes down below, you can get Jigsaw Health Adrenal Cocktail, and it's just a powder that you put 1 scoop in. That's what I actually do every single day when I am working out. So there's not necessarily a right or wrong time to do adrenal cocktails. You can do it kind of whenever you're going to be consistent with it. The next thing that I love to give patients with adrenal fatigue or heightened stress response is B vitamins. Specifically, vitamin B5 and B12 are usually deficient in patients with adrenal fatigue, and it's imperative for our nervous system response. So getting yourself good quality B vitamins is super helpful. You can take that in the form of capsules of beef liver. I know it sounds gross and weird. I promise it's not. Their capsules of beef liver have tons of B vitamins, in addition to other things like iodine, selenium, copper, retinol, other things in there too. You can also get B vitamins through our food sources like animal products, eggs, nuts, and seeds. Those are also great foods for getting your B vitamins in, but just make sure that you're getting in adequate amounts of B vitamins. You also can get this tested as well if you're not sure. The third supplement that I love to give almost everybody, you guys, is magnesium. Magnesium is imperative for over 300 different functions in our body, including the nervous system regulation and the stress response. A lot of us are deficient in magnesium because we need way more magnesium when we're under stress, and a lot of people struggle to get magnesium through their food sources. So things like dark chocolate or nuts and seeds are great forms of magnesium, or I like to give people supplements of it in the form of L-threonate, glycinate, malate, depending on kind of if you need more energy. Malate's great for energy. Glycinate's great for relaxing and kind of coming down for sleep at night. Those are great forms of supplements. I usually start super slow with dosing of magnesium because we want to get our guts used to it, make sure there's no GI disturbances. The forms I give you are very well tolerated in the digestive system, so you should be fine. You may even want to dose yourself 3 milligrams times your body weight. So for example, if you weigh 100 pounds, you'd want to dose 300 milligrams of magnesium daily. That's kind of how I do magnesium, but again, start slow, experiment with the different forms and see which one you kind of like depending on what your symptoms are. The fourth supplement that I like to use in people with adrenal fatigue are adaptogenic herbs. There's a myriad of different adaptogens out there, and this is when it's important to work with somebody who knows you, your situation, if you have high or low cortisol, by looking at symptoms and maybe even some testing of objective data, whatever you need to do. But there are lots and lots of different adaptogenic herbs. Ashwagandha is probably one of the most popular ones, but there's also medicinal mushrooms. There's rhodiola, schisandra, eleuthero. There's a whole bunch of different ones out there. And basically, these little magical herbs help you to adapt better to your situation. So it helps you to respond less to cortisol and have cortisol wreak less of a havoc on your body. It also adapts to what you need. So adaptogenic herbs, a lot of them work for people with high or low cortisol, especially something like ashwagandha. There are some nuanced conversations where something like licorice root, for example, would be needed for somebody with low levels of cortisol, but again, most things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, schisandra, those are all amazing herbs for helping people with both high and low cortisol. And the fifth most important supplement for people with adrenal fatigue is a bit of a nuanced conversation. And these things there's a myriad of them. And so I kind of was a little bit deceiving when I said there's one thing. We can use things like licorice root, like I mentioned, for people with low levels of cortisol. There are something called glandulars, so you can actually take adrenal, like bovine adrenal gland, which can help people significantly with low levels of cortisol. So if you're feeling like you're just dragging all throughout the day and so tired and you're so your stress response is just not resilient, you've undergone big trauma or something like that, adrenal glandulars are super, super helpful for that. And then there are also supplements and herbs for people with high cortisol, like phosphatidylserine. I know that's a big mouthful, but phosphatidylserine is really great at helping lower cortisol levels. It helps with the memory and cognition and those types of things, but it also is really helpful for people with insomnia whose cortisol is high at night. It can really be beneficial for sleep. So the fifth one is, again, much more of a nuanced conversation and a much more of an individualized approach where you need to work with somebody to actually look at your circadian rhythm. Is cortisol high at certain points in the day? Is it low at certain points of the day? How are we feeling with that subjective data? Maybe again, looking at the testing, like through the Dutch test or a saliva test or something like that, can help look at your cortisol multiple times in the day and really give you the answers to what supplements you need at various times in the day, depending on, again, symptoms and what your test results look like. I'd like to know in the comments below, let me know if you've taken adaptogenic herbs. Let me know what your experience has been, if you like them, don't like them, if they worked, not worked. I'd love to hear from you on that. I also want to remind you guys, all of this information is in my signature course, Heal Your Hormones Masterclass. This is my course on how to heal from adrenal fatigue specifically. So it talks about how to test, what to test, tests to get, home-based testing. It talks about symptoms that you might have of adrenal fatigue and hormonal imbalances in general. And then it talks about, obviously, the treatment for that. We talk about way more than just the supplements, vitamins, and herbs, but that definitely is in there to teach you how to determine which supplements, vitamins, and herbs would be best for you to kind of come up with your own holistic treatment plan. So you can go to that at alidamron.com/heal. We are doing a discount for that right now through the month of November. So go ahead and check that out. Again, alidamron.com/heal. There's no coupon code necessary, but it's been a wonderful course for hundreds of women who have gone through this and healed from things like adrenal fatigue. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. And lastly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be notified anytime I post new content related to women's health, hormones, or holistic health. If you have friends and family that could benefit from this info, shoot this video over to them, and I'll see you guys in the next one.